I know, he's so rude. Why put up with him? I don't know.
Good.
Okay. Together you have a combined total of 15 years at Accelerator. You're known as a bit of a tag team. Tell us about your working relationship.
A bit of a tag team, I'd probably say we're like the dream team.
Of course we are. We're like the best team.
What works?
That we quite often don't get on, don't like each other.
No.
No.
The reverse though.
Yeah, the reverse.
Yeah.
No, we do. We get on really well.
So I'd probably use the word chemistry, that there's this key...
Synergy. You mean synergy, not chemistry.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Synergy, chemistry, potato. Well, I guess this is it, isn't it, actually, in the way of, people would maybe talk to us about the energy that we bring together, some of the client relationships that we've got, particularly ask for us because of an outcome maybe of just, we think similarly.
We
make
do,
the same hand gestures.
We do think similarly, but we also think quite differently because I can be quite direct.
Yeah.
And Steve can actually sort of be the complete opposite of me with some of those conversations we have, because when we're both creative, we can get very carried away.
A little bit too carried away sometimes.
Yeah, honestly, some of our ideas, we go big, and then we'll text each other and go, I've had a better idea. And then we'll catch up on Teams or Zoom, and I might go, I thought this, and then Steve will go, oh my god, what if we do this?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and then we can get too carried away because we can get too impressed with ourselves at how creative we've been.
Nina talks more than I do. not really, actually. When we deliver personally, we're virtually all face to face. We do things in the same way. We see where we're going with something, and we see where we can make those connections together as well. I don't know, it seems to fit off. You said like 15 years between us, but when I joined 6 years ago, there was a connection.
Yeah, and I mean, you think it wouldn't work because I mean, I'm a rugby fan, he's a football fan.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, the next question I'll let you think. What's the most interesting project you've worked on together?
Okay, so this is really funny because...
tell me what we're doing.
No, what I was going to say, I was going to write... I wrote down what I thought it was, and then
so
to you,
So after 3 we say what we think.
Okay, yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, NHG. So why do you think NHG?
So I think...
So Notting Hill Genesis was the client we're thinking of.
So I think it's a number of things. We've done so many different projects with them, and I've worked with them for a while, been there 9 years. But when the pandemic hit and we started working from home, our relationship with our clients changed completely.
Yeah.
And I think what was really interesting was that our contact at NHG had already worked with us and got in touch with us and said, what can you do around resilience because of the impact it's having on people? And then you and I had to chat because we weren't working solo because we didn't really know what the virtual world was like, did we, for delivery?
We hated it.
Yeah, we did. We absolutely hated it. Like when we were first told we were going virtual, we were like,
no,
we're not doing it. To the point that when we designed something, do you remember we would log on at 7:30 in the morning and practice and rehearse the whole session.
Yeah.
And then at like 5 to 9 we'd go, okay, yeah, we're ready. And then we'd like go and get a cup of coffee and then be online at 9 o'clock. And then we'd deliver it, and then we'd come off and go, yeah, it works exactly how we rehearsed it. I mean, oh my God, we really overthought it, didn't we?
At the beginning, but then that chemistry synergy sort of developed, and again we got to the point where we wouldn't have to do that. But I think with NHG it gave us the real opportunity to be creative, to be innovative. That they almost gave us a blank piece of paper and said we want a menu of different tools like Mighty 90 sessions, power hours.
Exactly, half-day ways.
Yeah, and it was like, let's just go wild, and we did go wild.
And we did, and what's great is because our contact at the time, because she had worked with us, she knew how creative we could be, and she kind of gave us quite a broad sheet of being creative as we wanted. So, I mean, let's be honest, one of our funniest things was the potato masher.
Yeah.
And that's all we're going to say. There is an activity we do that involves a potato masher, and everyone on the screen just looks at us really blankly when we say, go and find a potato masher.
So much so that my wife Lorraine would often say to me, I can't find a potato masher, is it in your office? I'm like, no, why would it be? But yeah, it often was.
But that's the level of creativity that we were allowed to have. And do you remember the virtual treasure hunt?
Yeah.
I mean, in the first year of the pandemic, we did, for the amount of teams at NHG, for their team Christmas event, we ran virtual treasure hunts for them. And they were so fun. And also really powerful, because we allocated points for different things that they would collect. And some of the things that they had to collect were actual memories, which they would share. So it would be like your fondest memory, or your favourite memory, or your favourite moment, your favourite holiday destination. And people would share that experience, and you could really feel
the emotions that really kicked in, wasn't it? It's good.
It was really, really good and really powerful. Because for us it was, you know, we were getting to know people that were attending training on a very different level that we probably wouldn't have done face to face.
No. I suppose that it becomes memorable as well, because we'd see people come back on different modules, different workshops, different themes. But we'd be the consistency, which seemed to really work, and that's probably why NHG is one of the most creative or memorable clients to work with.
I mean, it's very rare that, when we get an email from NHG, it's always, "Hi Nina and Steve, how are you?" So, because they see the two of us almost like one word.
I love that. Amazing. During your training delivery, how do you motivate and engage the participants to establish buy-in?
I think the first thing we have to do is motivate each other. So what Steve and I normally do is we'll connect online, maybe 15-20 minutes before the session, on a different link, because what we don't want is to hear the participants hear them. Like, we don't want them to hear us taking the mickey out of each other before we start.
Do we do that?
Maybe a little bit. But yeah, we do. We just sort of have a little bit of fun, talk a little bit about the session, get ourselves ready and in the right headspace. And sometimes, because we can get a little bit creative, we might go, "Oh, last night I had this idea. What do you think if we do this before we start?"
But that could be 5 minutes before we're due to start.
Yeah.
And then suddenly we've dropped this new idea into place, and it's like, do we go with it or do we not? And it's that creative spark, or the way that we can work it, and how it seems to just work as well. So the engagement and the participation of the participants is I suppose that's like, we build trust early on.
Yeah, it's so important. And one of the ways we do that is, you know, we'll share stuff about ourselves. So one of the things that we do quite often, especially if there's a new group, new program, is we might ask people before they come to bring an item or an object they feel best represents them, and then they share what that item is, what that object is, and why it represents them. And that's how we form connections. And I'm very visual in my learning, so when people share that item, that's how I remember them. Even though I do make notes. But the one that really stands out for me recently, I was telling Steve about this earlier, was, so she said, "Do I need to bring my item on camera?" And I said, "Well, if you can, yeah." She said, "Oh, it's really big." And I said, "Well, what is it?" And she went, "It's a mattress." I went, "Okay, maybe not." And I said, "Why a mattress?" And she said, "It's not a mattress, it's a temper mattress." And I went, "Okay." I went, "So how does it represent you?" And she said, "It's the most comfortable thing in the world. It's the best thing since sliced bread, and it's extremely supportive. And the way it represents me is, with the job I do in the communities, I am the best thing since sliced bread, since once they start working with me. I am extremely supportive, and I provide comfort when they need it." And that
temper mattress.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that helps you really engage with them and connect with them, because I think for the two of us, it's about connecting with them. So
I think also that really resonates with me, because of that connection on a personal level, and sharing personal stories, life stories, real life experiences. So for me, it's also about like authenticity, of we're authentic, whether we're come as a collective pair, or whether we're also training and delivering individually. But there's a real authenticity about how we do things, and it's very real, creating an environment where people feel safe, where trust exists. That they can bring their best self to the training.
I think vulnerability as well. I think we kind of give permission for them to be vulnerable if the moment allows it, and we give them the space, depending on the conversations we're having, because sometimes some of the conversations can be really difficult, particularly if we're talking about challenges that people face at work, on a professional level or a personal level, and the impact it has on them at work. So you know, we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and show them our vulnerability and acknowledge that it can be scary, but let them know that it's okay, this is a safe space, it's okay for you to do that too. And that goes back to what you said about trust, because they know then they can trust us.
Yeah,
absolutely. Brilliant. You both stand up and deliver training in front of senior executives and large groups of people. You must have really perfected your ability to communicate effectively in pressurized situations. So tell us, what are your 5 top tips for effective communication?
Firstly, I'd have to say that would be a big assumption, honestly.
Yeah.
Because if I was to say that I don't get nervous still, that would be a lie. I do, whether you're the same.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
It's a little bit like, well, you know, Rachel, like as a professional footballer, if you're coming down that tunnel, is there a bit of, you know, it's happening to me now actually, the hairs on the back of your head your hair stand up, you feel that element of just, what am I looking for, like the energy that you might bring.
That sort of nervous excitement, isn't it? Yeah.
There's an element of like nervous excitement, whether that's with a new group of people that you've never met before, if it's, you know, 70 people for a client, or the 500 that you did the other day, you know, I really take my hat off to you for that. But it's that, again, a realism and authenticity about us, probably, in the sense of that it's not just that easy.
Yeah.
I can't flick a switch and just suddenly put a performance on. You know, it's about building up to that, but just being really realistic with it. So, but that doesn't answer the question about the top 5 tips.
No, but you are right about the nervousness, and I share that with them. Again, that goes back to allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. So if I'm doing customer services training, and I'll talk about that, first 4 seconds is how you make your first impression when you meet somebody, and I'll ask them, what were your first thoughts when you met me, and they'll share, and I'll say to them, and you know, they might say, oh, you look really self-confident, you seem really assured, and I'll say to them, I was terrified, I was really nervous, and still now, I've been a trainer of over 20 years, but when I walk into a group of people that I don't know, I am still slightly terrified, my heart's pounding, my mouth's dry, and I'm thinking, if I can get through the first 15 minutes, I'll be absolutely fine. And I think that goes back to what we've been saying about being honest. So,
definitely.
yeah, so being honest.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to the 5 now.
I think so, honest.
Are you taking the first one?
All right, I'm going to take, okay, so sense of humour. I think sense of humour is so important, and for me personally, I think it's okay to laugh at yourself when you do training, and I am happy to laugh at myself. I mean, sometimes. We always tell people there's no such thing as a stupid question, and there isn't. But I always caveat and say, but don't expect me not to laugh at you when you ask that kind of question, because we are gonna. Let's be honest, we are gonna laugh. So I think a sense of humour is really important, and the ability to laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
I think being honest, and I think vulnerability again, going back to that, because it impacts your resilience when you're training, so it comes across as whether or not you're authentic or not, whether they trust you. Alright, so I've done 3.
Do I get
2?
one?
Yeah. You get 2.
2. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
What was the question again? So, top 5 things for effective communication. Being present, I think, is a key thing. So, being in the moment, consciously stopping, pausing, being able to take the perspective of another person. So perspective taken, I know there's different things that come into play there, but I think just if you go into that communication mode on autopilot, the authenticity goes, so that being present, I think, is a real key thing of being open-minded around what I might be thinking, feeling, how I might respond, but actually in the communication there's always 2 people involved. Or more. Yeah.
I think flexibility is another one, actually.
Are you taking the 5th?
I am, yeah. I mean, you can add another one if you want, but I was just thinking, as you were talking, I did a little bit of relational thing, but as you were talking, I thought flexibility, actually, because one of the things that we really have to do is we have to be flexible in the moment, don't we? Because sometimes when we're doing group discussions, the conversation can run away with you, and it's standing there as the facilitator thinking, do I shut down this conversation, or actually do I give them the space to carry on, because I think they're going to hear things from each other that they might not normally hear, and being flexible enough to say, I'll drop the next 5 slides because I don't need them, because actually their conversation is more important. So I think flexible.
There's probably a link there as well about just being in the moment and being present. If I'm already 10 steps ahead or the next slide ahead, for example. I'm not listening in the moment, so I'm not tuned in.
Yeah.
Don't know where that conversation is going to go or the value that it might bring or add.
Yeah.
So
exactly,
yeah, we'll let you have that one.
All right, I think so. Thank you.
Nina and Steve, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.